I stood in my parents' living room feeling every pair of eyes fixed on me. My wife Megan had just demanded I unlock my phone in front of our entire family during my mother's birthday dinner. The grandfather clock ticked loudly in the sudden silence. What she did not know was that I had been preparing for this exact moment for 3 weeks. She thought she was exposing me. But the truth I had discovered was far worse than anything she could have imagined about me. Before we begin this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you enjoy stories about truth betrayal and standing up for yourself, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This story will show you that sometimes the person who demands transparency the most is the one hiding the darkest secrets. Now let me take you back 3 months when everything in my life started to change. My name is Fred, and for 4 years I believed I had built something beautiful with Megan. We met at a technology conference in Boston when I was 28 years old. She was working in marketing for a small startup, and I was a software engineer for a mid-sized company. Our eyes met across the exhibition hall, and something clicked instantly. We spent that entire evening talking about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. By the time the conference ended, I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. Our wedding was simple but filled with warmth. We held it in my grandparents' backyard in Vermont, surrounded by apple trees and the people who mattered most to us. Megan wore a flowing white dress that she had found at a vintage shop, and I remember thinking she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. When she said her vows, tears streamed down her face, and I believed every single word that came out of her mouth. The first 2 years of our marriage were everything I had hoped for.
We moved into a cozy apartment in the city, decorating it together, piece by piece. Sunday dinners became our tradition. We would spend the entire afternoon cooking together, trying new recipes, laughing when things went wrong, celebrating when they turned out perfect. Megan remembered the smallest details about me. She knew exactly how I liked my coffee, which socks were my favorites, what songs made me smile on difficult days. I felt lucky. I felt loved. I felt safe. We had plans for the future. We talked about having children within the next year or two. We started saving for a bigger house, maybe somewhere with a yard where our kids could play. Everything seemed to be falling into place like puzzle pieces coming together to form a perfect picture of the life I had always wanted. About 8 months before everything fell apart, Megan received a job offer that seemed too good to pass up. A large insurance company wanted her as their senior marketing specialist. The salary was 40% higher than what she was making, and the position came with better benefits and more opportunities for growth. I was genuinely happy for her. I told her how proud I was, how she deserved this recognition for all her hard work. She smiled and hugged me, and I thought this was just another good thing happening in our already good life. The changes started small, so small that I barely noticed them at first. Megan began leaving for work earlier than usual and coming home later. She said the new job required more time, more dedication, more effort to prove herself. I understood. I had been through similar transitions in my own career. I told myself this was temporary, that once she settled into her new role, things would go back to normal. She started talking about her new team frequently. The people in her department seemed nice, she said. Her direct supervisor was supportive. And there was this guy named Derek, the head of the sales department, who had taken her under his wing. Derek was helping her understand the company culture. Derek had introduced her to important clients. Derek thought she was doing a fantastic job. I nodded along, genuinely happy that she had found a mentor in her new workplace. The name Derek meant nothing to me then. He was just another colleague, another face in the background of her professional life. Around the same time, Megan started paying more attention to her appearance. She bought new clothes more stylish and form-fitting than what she usually wore. She spent longer in front of the mirror each morning perfecting her makeup, styling her hair differently. When I complimented her, she smiled and said she wanted to look professional for her new position. I believed her. Why would I not believe my own wife? The first real warning sign came on a Friday evening about 5 months ago. I had left work early with plans to surprise Megan with a romantic dinner. I stopped by her favorite restaurant to pick up takeout, bought flowers, and set up our small dining table with candles. I even put on the playlist of songs from our first date. Everything was perfect, except Megan did not come home. She arrived more than 2 hours later than her usual time. When she walked through the door, she seemed startled to see the dinner setup. Her explanation came quickly, almost too quickly. There had been a team-building event that ran late. She was sorry she did not text. Her phone had died. I wanted to believe her, so I pushed aside the small voice in my head that whispered something was wrong. That night, I noticed something I had never seen before. Megan took her phone into the bathroom with her. In 4 years of marriage, she had never done that. Her phone usually sat on the nightstand or the kitchen counter, accessible and unremarkable. But now she clutched it like it contained state secrets. When she came out, I casually mentioned that I had tried to use her phone earlier to check the weather because mine was charging. Her face flickered with something that looked like panic before she composed herself. A few days later, I discovered she had changed her phone password. We had always used the same password for everything. It was a symbol of our trust, our openness with each other. When I asked about it, she said the company had new security protocols that required employees to use unique, complex passwords on all their devices. It sounded reasonable. Corporate security policies were always changing. But combined with everything else, it planted a seed of doubt in my mind that I could not ignore. That night, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, while Megan slept peacefully beside me. For the first time in our marriage, I felt a distance between us that I could not explain. It was not physical distance. She was right there, close enough to touch. But emotionally, it felt like she had drifted to somewhere I could not reach. The weeks that followed were a slow descent into confusion and doubt. I started paying attention to details I had previously overlooked, and what I saw troubled me deeply. Megan smiled at her phone constantly. Not the polite smile you give when reading something mildly amusing, but genuine full smiles that lit up her entire face. When I asked what was so funny, she always had the same answer. Just memes from the work group chat. Nothing interesting. But her eyes never quite met mine when she said it. She started taking phone calls outside, stepping onto our small balcony even in cold weather to have conversations she said were with demanding clients who called at inconvenient hours. I could see her through the glass door pacing back and forth, sometimes laughing, sometimes speaking in low, intimate tones that did not match the description of a professional call. One evening I walked into the living room just as a notification popped up on her phone screen. She had left it on the coffee table while she went to the kitchen for water. The message was from someone saved as Derek S., and even from a distance I could see the heart emoji at the end of the preview text. My stomach dropped. When Megan returned, I mentioned casually that her phone had buzzed. She grabbed it quickly, glanced at the screen, and slipped it into her pocket without a word. I decided to ask directly. That night over dinner, I brought up Derek. I kept my tone light, curious, rather than accusatory. How was her mentor doing? Was he still helping her navigate the new job? Megan's reaction caught me off guard. Her face hardened, and she accused me of being jealous for no reason. She asked why I was suddenly so interested in her colleagues. She said I was being paranoid and controlling. Within minutes, a simple question had turned into an argument, where I somehow ended up apologizing for making her feel like I did not trust her. This became a pattern. Every time I expressed even the slightest concern, Megan turned it around on me. I was insecure. I was suffocating her. I was imagining things because I had issues I needed to work on. After each conversation, I felt disoriented, wondering if maybe she was right. Maybe I was the problem. Then came the most bizarre twist of all. Megan started demanding to see my phone. It began one evening when she asked almost playfully if she could look through my messages. I had nothing to hide, so I handed it over without hesitation. She scrolled through my texts, my emails, my social media. She checked my call history, my photos, even my browsing history. When she found nothing incriminating, she seemed almost disappointed. But instead of this being a one-time thing, it became a regular occurrence. Every few days, sometimes daily, Megan would ask to see my phone. She framed it as a matter of trust. If you have nothing to hide, she would say, you should not mind showing me. I complied every time, hoping that my transparency would ease whatever insecurity she was feeling. The hypocrisy became glaring when I asked for the same access to her phone. Her response was explosive. How dare I invade her privacy? Did I not trust her? This was controlling behavior, she said. She needed her own space, her own boundaries. A healthy relationship meant respecting each other's independence. I pointed out that she looked through my phone regularly, but she dismissed the comparison. That was different, she claimed, though she never explained how. The double standard left me bewildered. I was expected to be an open book while she remained a locked vault. And any time I questioned this arrangement, I ended up feeling like the villain. Our Sunday dinners stopped. Megan said she needed personal time on weekends to decompress from her stressful job. She went to yoga classes that seemed to last for hours. She met up with friends I had never heard of before. Our apartment, once filled with warmth and laughter, started feeling like a place where two strangers happened to live. The discovery that changed everything happened on an ordinary Sunday morning. Megan had left early for a gym session, a new habit she had developed over the past few months. In her rush, she had forgotten her iPad on the kitchen counter. Our devices were synced, a remnant from the days when we shared everything openly. I had no intention of snooping. I simply wanted to read the news while drinking my coffee. When I picked up the iPad, a notification caught my eye. It was from the Voice Memos app, and the preview showed a file titled, About Derek Thoughts. My heart rate spiked. I knew I should put the device down and walk away. Looking through her personal recordings felt like crossing a line. But then I thought about all the months of confusion, the accusations, the feeling that I was losing my grip on reality. I thought about how she searched my phone regularly while guarding hers like a fortress. I needed to know the truth. There were 4 voice memos that shattered my world. The first recording was dated about 2 months earlier. Megan's voice filled my ears, intimate and confessional, as if she were talking to a therapist or a diary. She spoke about Derek, about how he made her feel seen and appreciated in ways I apparently did not. She described how attractive she found him, how exciting it was when he paid attention to her. Then came the comparison. "Fred is so boring now," she said. "He does not make my heart race anymore. He is just there like furniture. I have not felt truly alive in our marriage for a long time. Derek makes me feel like a woman again." The second recording was from about 6 weeks before. Her tone was giddier, almost girlish. She recounted a lunch she and Derek had shared, just the two of them, at a restaurant far from the office where no one would see them. She described how he had reached across the table and held her hand, how electric it felt. "I know this is wrong," she admitted in the recording. "He is married and so am I. But I cannot stop thinking about him. I am wondering if I should let things go further. Part of me knows I should not, but another part of me does not care anymore." The third recording made my blood run cold. It was from 3 weeks prior, and Megan was no longer just confessing feelings. She was strategizing. She talked about how she needed to keep me off balance to make me doubt myself so I would not have the mental energy to question her. "The best defense is a good offense," she said. "If I make Fred feel like he is the one with problems, he will be too busy defending himself to notice what I am doing. I will keep checking his phone, keep making him prove his loyalty. That way, he stays on the defensive and I stay in control." Hearing her calculate how to manipulate me, how to use my trust and love against me, was worse than hearing about Derek. This was not a woman caught up in confusing emotions. This was deliberate psychological warfare. The fourth and final recording was made just 1 week before I found it. Megan's voice was breathless, excited. She described kissing Derek in the company parking lot after everyone else had left. "It was incredible," she gushed. "I have not felt passion like that in years. We are planning something bigger. There is a work conference next month, and I am going to tell Fred it is mandatory. But really, Derek and I are going to stay together for a night. Finally. And here is the best part. I am going to demand that Fred show me his phone in front of his family at his mother's birthday party next week. When he gets defensive, which he will, it will prove to everyone that he is the untrustworthy one. Then, when I eventually leave him, I will look like the victim who tried everything to save a marriage to a secretive, possibly cheating husband." I sat in silence long after the recordings ended. My hands were shaking. My chest felt like someone had driven a fist through it. But I did not cry. The pain was too deep for tears. It was the kind of hurt that settles into your bones and makes you question everything you thought you knew about your life. For a moment, I considered confronting her immediately that very day when she returned from the gym. I imagined the satisfaction of throwing her words back at her, of watching her face as she realized her secret was out. But then I thought about that fourth recording about her plan to humiliate me in front of my family. And I decided that if she wanted to play games with transparency and trust, I would show her exactly what true transparency looked like. 3 weeks. That is how long I waited, planned, and prepared. Every day felt like walking on a tightrope while pretending everything was normal. I kissed Megan goodbye each morning. I asked about her day each evening. I let her check my phone whenever she demanded. I played the role of the unsuspecting husband perfectly because I knew the final act was coming. The first thing I did was create backups of all her voice memos. I saved them to my own cloud storage, to an external hard drive, and to a secure email account. I was not going to let this evidence disappear. Then I started researching the technical details I would need. My parents had recently bought a high-quality Bluetooth speaker for their living room, a gift from my sister Claire. I familiarized myself with how it worked, how to connect devices quickly, how to ensure the audio would be clear and loud enough for a room full of people to hear. I also prepared myself emotionally. There were nights when the anger threatened to overwhelm me, when I wanted to scream at Megan and demand to know how she could betray me so completely. But I pushed those feelings down. I could not afford to tip my hand before the right moment. So I meditated. I exercised. I talked to a therapist, though I did not reveal the specifics of my situation, just that I was dealing with a difficult personal matter and needed strategies to stay calm under pressure. My mother's 65th birthday was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon at my parents' house. It was the perfect setting, the exact scenario Megan had described in her recording. She planned to expose me there to make me look like the dishonest spouse in front of everyone I loved. She had no idea that I was going to turn her trap into her undoing. The day arrived sunny and warm, one of those perfect late spring afternoons that feel like a gift. My parents' house was decorated with streamers and balloons. About 15 people had gathered to celebrate, including my parents, my sister Claire, and her husband, aunts, uncles, and a few close family friends. The atmosphere was joyful, filled with laughter and love. Megan played her part beautifully. She helped my mother arrange flowers, chatted warmly with my relatives, complimented my aunt's new haircut. Watching her perform was surreal. This woman, who had recorded herself planning to destroy my reputation, was now hugging my mother and telling her how wonderful she looked for 65. The cognitive dissonance was dizzying. Dinner was delicious. My father had grilled steaks, and my mother had prepared her famous potato salad and green beans. We ate and talked and laughed. My mother opened her presents genuinely touched by the thoughtfulness of each gift. For a few hours, I almost forgot what was coming. Almost. After dinner, everyone moved to the living room for coffee and birthday cake. My mother was cutting slices of her favorite chocolate layer cake when Megan made her move. She started casually, almost innocently. "Fred, honey," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "I have been meaning to ask you about something. Earlier this week I saw a strange message on your phone, something that seemed a little suspicious." The room grew quiet. My father paused mid-sentence. My mother looked up from the cake with concern in her eyes. Megan had everyone's attention exactly as she intended. I kept my expression neutral. "What message are you talking about?" She shook her head, feigning uncertainty. "I do not remember exactly, but it made me uncomfortable. And I think especially in front of family, it is important for us to be honest with each other." Claire. My sister shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her husband put a hand on her arm. Megan pressed on. "Fred, if you have nothing to hide, why not just show everyone your phone? Let us clear the air. Prove that there is nothing going on." The accusation hung in the air. I could feel the eyes of my family on me, curious, concerned, perhaps even suspicious. This was her plan unfolding exactly as she had described. She expected me to get defensive, to refuse to look guilty. Instead, I nodded slowly. "You are right," I said, my voice calm. "Transparency is important in a marriage. I will show everyone my phone." A flicker of surprise crossed her face. She had not expected easy compliance. But I continued. "If we are doing this, let us do it properly. You should show your phone too. If neither of us has anything to hide, neither of us should have any problem with that. Fair is fair." The room was silent. Megan's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "Of course," she said, though I caught the slight tremor in her voice. "I have nothing to hide." She handed me her phone with what she probably hoped looked like confidence. I took it feeling the weight of months of deception in my palm. I stood up and walked toward my parents' new Bluetooth speaker. Megan watched me, confusion creeping into her expression. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I want everyone to be able to see and hear clearly," I explained, "for complete transparency." I connected her phone to the speaker. The pairing chime seemed to echo through the silent room. Fred Megan's voice had an edge now. "What is this about?" I looked at her directly. "You wanted transparency. You are going to get it." I opened the Voice Memos app and selected the first file. Then I pressed play. Megan's recorded voice filled the room, intimate and damning. Everyone heard her talk about Derek, about how boring I was, about how he made her feel alive. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's face hardened. Megan lunged toward me. "Turn that off. Give me my phone." Claire was faster. She stepped between us, her expression fierce. "No," she said firmly. "We all deserve to hear this." The first recording ended. I played the second, then the third. By the time her voice described her plan to manipulate me to keep me on the defensive so she could continue her affair without suspicion, my mother was crying quietly. Several relatives had looks of pure shock on their faces. The fourth recording played. Megan's breathless description of kissing Derek in the parking lot. Her excitement about their planned overnight trip. And finally her scheme to humiliate me at this very gathering, to paint me as the untrustworthy one so she could look like a victim. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Megan stood in the middle of the room, her face pale, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "You do not understand," she started, her voice cracking. "Those were just thoughts, private thoughts. I never actually did anything." Claire stepped forward. "You planned to manipulate my brother. You described kissing another man. You were going to make him look bad in front of all of us. Do not stand here and tell us these were just thoughts." My father rose from his chair. His voice was quiet but firm. "Megan, I think you should leave." Megan turned to me, her eyes suddenly pleading. "Fred, please. We can talk about this. We can work through it. You cannot do this to me, to us." I looked at the woman I had loved for 4 years, the woman I had planned to build a family with. "I did not do this to you," I said quietly. "You did this to yourself. I just let the truth speak." She stared at me for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she grabbed her purse and walked out the door without another word. The days following my mother's birthday were some of the hardest of my life. Even though I had been the one to expose the truth, even though I knew I had done the right thing, the pain was overwhelming. 4 years of memories, of shared dreams, of building a life together, all of it collapsed into rubble in a single afternoon. I filed for divorce the following week. Megan did not contest it. Perhaps she was too ashamed, or perhaps she simply wanted to move on to her new life with Derek. Whatever her reasons, she signed the papers quickly and quietly. Our apartment was divided possessions, sorted a marriage reduced to legal paperwork and logistics. A few months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that things had not worked out between Megan and Derek. Apparently, he had never intended to leave his wife. Megan was just a diversion, an ego boost, a temporary thrill. When she pushed for more, he ended things. I would be lying if I said I did not feel a twinge of satisfaction at this news. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for the waste of it all. Sad for the woman I thought I knew who turned out to be someone else entirely. The early months after the divorce were brutal. Our apartment, once so cozy, felt like a mausoleum of broken promises. I would wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for someone who was not there. I would come home from work and feel the emptiness press against me like a physical weight. Some nights I did not sleep at all. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering where everything had gone wrong. Recovery did not happen in a straight line. There were good days and terrible days, moments of hope followed by crashes of despair. But slowly, gradually, I started to rebuild. I threw myself into exercise, finding solace in the simple rhythm of running and lifting weights. Physical exhaustion helped quiet the mental noise. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my marriage, people who welcomed me back without judgment. I started reading again books I had always meant to get to, but never found the time for. Small pleasures began to feel meaningful again. My family was my anchor through it all. Claire called me every few days, sometimes just to check in, sometimes to invite me over for dinner with her and her husband. My parents made a point of reaching out regularly, reminding me that I was loved, that I was not alone. Their support asked for nothing in return. It was simply there, steady and unconditional, like a lighthouse in a storm. About 6 months after the divorce, I realized that the sharp pain had dulled into something more manageable. I was not healed, not completely. Some scars take years to fade, and some never disappear entirely. But I was functional. I was moving forward. I was learning to be myself again, not the version of myself that existed in relation to Megan, but the person I was at my core. Looking back now, a year later, I have gained some perspective on everything that happened. The most important lesson I learned is that the people who demand transparency the most are often the ones hiding the most. Megan searched my phone constantly while guarding her own secrets. She accused me of being untrustworthy while planning to betray me. She claimed to value honesty while constructing elaborate lies. I also learned that love does not mean accepting manipulation. For too long, I let Megan make me feel like the problem. I doubted my own perceptions, questioned my own sanity, apologized for things I had not done. That is not love. That is control. Real love does not make you feel smaller. It does not require you to abandon your sense of reality to keep the peace. Strangely enough, I am grateful for how everything unfolded. If Megan had not pushed for that confrontation at my mother's birthday, I might have continued living in a fog of confusion and self-doubt for years. Her own plan became the catalyst for my freedom. There is a certain poetic justice in that. I do not hate Megan. Hatred takes energy, and I have chosen to invest my energy elsewhere. I feel sorry for her in some ways, for whoever she really is underneath all the manipulation and deceit. She lost a husband who loved her genuinely, a family that had embraced her completely. Whether she realizes that loss or not, I cannot say. But it is not my concern anymore. Today I am sitting in my favorite coffee shop, the same one I have been coming to for years. The barista knows my order by heart. The afternoon sun is streaming through the windows, warming my face. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe I will fall in love again someday. Maybe I will not. But I know one thing for certain. I will never again let anyone make me doubt my own worth. I will never stay silent while someone tries to rewrite reality to suit their narrative. Sometimes the best response to deception is simply to let the truth speak for itself. And when you do, make sure you have a good speaker. So I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where someone accused you of the very thing they were doing themselves? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and your stories might help someone else going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more stories about real life, real struggles, and real strength. Your support means more than you know. Thank you for listening to my story today. Whatever you are going through in your own life, I hope you find the courage to trust yourself to stand up for your truth and to never let anyone dim your light. Take care of yourselves and remember that you deserve honesty, respect, and love that does not come with conditions.